Now taking the stage, please welcome Jeff Little.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to this really awesome event, or as we say in my entertainment technology program, this really cool event, man. It's good to be here this morning. My name is Jeff Little. I am director of the entertainment technology program at Northeast State Community College right here in East Tennessee. And what we teach is we teach the real-world applications of audio, lighting, those sort of things, recording. We teach all the business applications of that as well, like copyright, intellectual property, all of those things. And then lastly, we teach the creative elements to try to make a living in a field in which oftentimes people might not think it's a place that you can actually work and make a living. But what's interesting is there's actually gigs, and we still call them gigs, by the way. So there's actually gigs in this field, and it's very important that we try to create a program. And there's very few nationally, but try to create a program in which we try to develop curriculum that prepares students for not only the highest levels of technology and creative applications, but also the entry-level things that they're going to need to get their first gig, which I think sometimes it's easy to forget that before you can get to the situation in which you're going to use all the highest levels of that, you have to get the first gig. So I'm also a piano player. I'm a musician, professional musician, done that for many years, and that's how we developed the curriculum. For many years I've played music, still do that today. I'm originally from Western North Carolina. Grew up playing with a guitarist named Doc Watson. Anybody familiar with Doc Watson? And did that for a long time. Thank you. And then I became a tour manager, working with all sorts of artists in Nashville, continued to work with Doc. And some of the artists I worked with I always mention this to my students. I say, I worked with John Michael Montgomery. None of my students have any idea who that is, so that's cool. But then I at least did work with Keith Urban, which works out a little bit better. So for my program today, I was going to play a couple songs and kind of visit with you about our approach of how we try to bring these skills to our students. And when you're talking about think again, it's like thinking about an industry that has always been somewhat of an apprenticeship and trying to create an educational pathway to help our students get into this industry and have a big head start. So I've got my piano here today. Thank you so much. So what I like to do is, I was thinking about what songs to play. I always play a couple of tunes in my presentations, and it was Think Again. So I've chosen songs that you wouldn't normally hear on the piano. So this first one is actually by a jazz guitarist that was well-renowned back in the early turn of the century here. His name was Django Reinhardt. And so I'm going to do a little jazz guitar song here on the piano, and this one's called Minor Swing. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. That's not that easy at 9 in the morning, actually. So, but anyhow, our program is based on trying to provide students, trying to balance, because a lot of our students do want to be involved in a creative career, and trying to balance that with what practical applications do you need to balance with that. So, for example, all recording today, if you go into a recording studio today, all recording's done digitally, meaning, it's just all on software now. As a matter of fact, once again, my students think it's so funny. When I first started doing sessions in Nashville, I tell them I recorded a tape. They think that's hilarious. Tape, what is tape? So what you do now is you go in, and if any of y'all wanted to come to the studio and sing a song, we'd have you sing it 5 times. And then we'd take those 5 audio tracks, and we'd put those up there. And you could actually see the sound waves on the computer of each time you sang the song. Then the technology is there today in which they can take a mouse and digitally edit each syllable to make one good vocal. And so the question is, the technology is unbelievable, but did the vocal become better because it became perfect? Anybody ever hear somebody sing live that didn't sound as good as their record? Now you know why. That's kind of how it works. But, balancing that to understand what your outcome is. Outcomes are so important, but you still need to know the technology. I was visiting with some of the folks putting on this event today. Students' understanding of live sound, this particular sound system today has been tuned to this room. This room has an acoustical characteristic. So before they even talk about getting the piano, the proper EQ or anything else, they tune this system to the room, helping students understand all the technologies that go along with this industry. So we spend a lot of time with that, how real world jobs work. And speaking of jobs, before I go further, you may be asking, well, in this field, what kind of jobs are there? And it's much broader than music tours or festivals. It's events just like this. It's corporate events. It's special events. It's church productions. It's audio installations for educational facilities, for churches. It's anywhere you see sound and lighting. It's much broader than just music. So after we talk about the technical side, we spend a little bit of time talking about the business side. A lot of our students may be a songwriter, or they may want to work with a publishing company or a record company. And so instead of just creating the music, all of our students are going to know how to register the works with the Copyright Office. A copyright for a song these days in the United States, it's really strong legislation. Copyrights in the United States for music and songs last 70 years past the death of the songwriter. 70 years past the death of the songwriter. So if you were to have a song that's making money, it's like having a family business, a family farm, anything like that. I tell my students, if I can write the next Christmas standard that gets played 1,000,000 times every Christmas, they won't see me in class. That's all I can tell you. Because I'll just wait around for my check in July when that occurs. But they need to understand how these mechanisms work. So, and then the third thing we do talk about is the creative applications, because having all this business knowledge, having all the technical knowledge is still an art in what you're producing. Even today, everything you see today has been thought out, has been processed, has been organized. So we want to make sure our students have the creative applications. I tell my students many times, when I first started doing sessions in Nashville and you're young, you want to prove that you're a good musician. So you really play with the mindset that I'm going to show everybody I can play. But then I wasn't very busy doing sessions until one of the session players came up to me and said, if you will play what the song needs, you will get a lot more sessions. So the next session I went in and the song needed that, one note. It still paid the same, by the way, so that was good. But it's understanding the outcome of your art is so important. Now the theme of this today is think again. And I think it's so important because when I first got involved with these type of programs, there really weren't any of these programs nationally. And what I think is so interesting about this, we found industry has been so welcoming for students to have this knowledge and skill as opposed to just starting at the very initial steps of the skill sets needed. So it's been wonderful to get to create curriculum about an industry in which I've worked in a long time. It's like being able to say, if we were looking for an employee and all the relationships I have in the industry, what would we be looking for? And we've had the freedom to create curriculum to do that. So that's been very cool. That's a musician term too. As a matter of fact, very cool. So I'm going to do one more song right here, if that's okay with you guys. And well, I mentioned earlier, I'm originally from Boone, North Carolina, across the mountain there, and played all sorts of places. As a matter of fact, I like to tell folks I've played from anywhere from the Smithsonian Institution to the Boone Volunteer Fire Department. Kind of like, that's the gamut of it all. But one of the things we were talking about, Think Again, and I'm actually a piano player, but a song I chose today is a fiddle song. And so once again, you wouldn't think it would automatically apply to the piano, but to end my presentation today, I'm going to play a little fiddle tune on the piano. By the way, if you have any questions about the Entertainment Technology program at Northeast State Community College, just contact me there. My name is Jeff Little. Would welcome the opportunity to visit with you about it. But I think I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and share what we do and share our processes and that sort of thing. I was telling somebody earlier, all the wonderful speakers today, it reminded me, I spoke at the University of Texas one time, and they had all these national speakers and very important speakers, and I said, I felt like I was fishing with the game warden. You know, it's kind of like, you know, you just want to make sure you do your best when you do that. So, but I'd like to finish up today with a little fiddle tune. This one's called the Orange Blossom Special. Those are just a few Ray Charles licks to get a little warmed up, that's all. Thank you so much. Thank you.